Everything that the Bible is talking about is not to be taken literally, but it is all talking about states of consciousness, things that you experience and that you go through within yourself. Don't believe me? Well, let's go through a couple of things that happen in the scriptures. Let's start with the Garden Eden story. Now, do you think it's really talking about a physical garden with a man and a woman and a snake twined around a tree? God is walking around in that garden. That's not what it's talking about. What is the Garden Eden? The garden is your consciousness. Eden is its state, which is a loving and peaceful state. That's its original unfallen state. And the fall of man, it's not a physical fall, it's a fall from a loving consciousness, or from Garden Eden, to a carnal consciousness. It is the fall from the spiritual mind into the carnal mind. Okay? Now, inside of that garden, inside of that consciousness of yours, there's a husband, and that husband is your thoughts, and your wife, which is your feelings or your emotions, and your I am, or your awareness of being, which is God, is watching over them in your consciousness. Do you understand? As you can clearly see, it is talking about consciousness. It's not talking about anything 3D physical. Let's keep going. How about the story of Jacob and Esau? Do you think it's talking about two fleshly people? Their mother symbolizes the soul. The soul gives birth, or has two manner of people in it struggling for dominance. Those two people are the spiritual mind, people, mind you, the spiritual mind, which is Jacob, and the carnal mind, which is Esau. Now it says that the elder shall serve the younger. The elder, or the firstborn, is the carnal mind. You see, when we are born into this physical world, isn't it the case that we are all born carnally minded? And then what? Isn't Jacob coming after him with his hand around Esau's heel? Isn't the spiritual mind born in you after you went through the vicissitudes of the carnal man in this life? Is it not so? As you can see, again, we are talking about things pertaining to consciousness, things of a spiritual or internal nature, right? Let's continue. In the book of Revelations, it talks about a book, right? And the book has 7 seals, right? That book is your body. In that body of yours, you have 7 angels or seals. An angel is a messenger. We'll get back to that in a minute. The Bible also calls them churches. It also calls them candlesticks, the 7 candlesticks, right? So we know that it is talking about your body. And we know that there must be 7 seals in your body. 7 angels, 7 messengers that communicate with you. Right? Doesn't a messenger communicate with you? So, who are those messengers? They are the 7 energy centers that you have in your body. Or 7 churches, candlesticks, however you want to call them. Or you can call them chakras, which simply means wheel, right? Now, before you hang yourself up on that term, the Bible uses the self-same term again in another part of the scripture, in the first chapter of the book of Ezekiel. It describes them to you as wheels with eyes all around them. These eyes are watching inside of you. They are energy centers in your body that communicate with you. They communicate what is going on in you, in themselves. They talk to you every day, whether you are aware of it or not. They communicate, for example, their desires. What else? For example, a woman. That's a good example. Let's say you are walking through a city. You're walking through downtown, and all of a sudden there's some trouble, right? And you look around, and then you see somebody got hurt. Okay, there was a fight. And then you look around, and there's some women standing there. What do women usually do when there's some violence going on around, or somebody just gets hurt in some way? Don't they hold their throat or their mouth? And don't they hold their bowels down here? Their bowels of compassion? Isn't that what they do? The Bible calls it the bowels of compassion even, right? That's that energy center. It gets activated. It activates your compassion. It's responsible for your compassion. Do you see? But you see, they can have positives and negatives. For example, your root, which is around your generative function, your genital area, right? Which is responsible for which is either manifested in zeal or lust, right? You can either have zeal for the spirit, or you can have lust for the flesh. Do you see the two aspects? Now back to the woman. The woman will hold her throat or her mouth like this when she's in shock. She wants to communicate something, right? That's why she's holding that energy center. Do you understand? The speech center, the power center, right? She wants to communicate what she's feeling in her bowels of compassion. Do you understand? Do you understand how it's manifested in the flesh? Do you see? In the scriptures, this power center of speech is represented through the disciple, or the discipline, or the faculty called Philip, right? There's a scene with Christ, Nathaniel, and Philip, where Philip calls out, you see, the throat, the power, the speech center, the power over life and death lies in the tongue. You see, he calls out to Nathaniel. Nathaniel is the imagination. He calls the imagination forth. And Christ, who represents the loving nature, draws what he imagines to him, to Philip. Because Philip has called life. Do you understand? The power of life and death is in the tongue. Do you see how it's all talking about spiritual things pertaining to your internal nature? None of it is talking about anything outside of you. You see, that's how people can deceive you. But this is also how you are able to tell who is who apart. You see, when people are reading the scriptures and they take everything literally, that means that they are still carnally minded, intellectually minded, superficially minded, because the carnal mind perceives everything through the lens of outward appearance, and through duality it sees it either in good or bad, feast or famine. Do you understand? And through outward appearance it can only judge skin deep. You see, Oh, in the Garden Eden story. In the Garden Eden story, the carnal mind is represented through the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. You see, you are not supposed to partake of its fruit. The physical manifestation in your body, in you, of that tree of the knowledge of good and evil, of the carnal mind that you have in you as well, is your central nervous system. Your central nervous system can only perceive reality superficially. All of your senses just perceive reality superficially, right? What I can see with my fleshly eyes, I can only see skin deep. I cannot perceive the nature or the being or the heart of a man, right? 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7. God judges the heart, the nature, the being, the intents, all internal things. But man judges what? He judges outward appearance. He judges only what he can see with his fleshly eyes, or what he can hear, or what he can taste, touch, or smell. All superficial ways of acquiring information. Is it not true? That tree of life, by the way, is the spiritual mind, to which Christ leads you back. Christ is a loving nature. The loving nature is in you. It proceeded from God, love. Love sent his loving nature into you to lead you back into the spiritual mind, which is the same thing that Joshua does for the children of Israel. Right? Does he not lead them? Does he not lead the children of Israel? The elevated spiritual thoughts that have come up in you, out of the carnal mind, out of the Old Testament into the New Testament, the spiritual mind. Is it not what happens? That's a good example. How about Moses? Moses' name means drawn out. He represents you. What are you being drawn out of? You're being drawn out of Pharaoh's kingdom. Pharaoh rules over Egypt, right? Pharaoh represents the carnal mind. The carnal mind, or Pharaoh, rules over your lower body consciousness, your fleshly desires. Is it not true? That is what the carnal mind rules over. Now Moses, who represents you being drawn out of the carnal mind, out of the lower body consciousness, right? He leads the children of Israel, your spiritual elevated thoughts that have come up in you. He leads them out of Egypt, out of the slavery to the lower body consciousness or your fleshly desires, right? And then he arrives at the edge of the Red Sea, right? The Red Sea is the crossing. The land that appears in the middle is the spiritual mind. The spiritual mind is the narrow way. You walk over it, you walk across it. How? Through Christ. Christ is God's loving nature. God's loving nature enables you to walk over water. Your water is your stormy emotions. You're walking on your emotions. You ignore the boisterous wind, your stormy thoughts. Through Christ, you are able to do that. On the left-hand side, you have the over-righteous mind. On the right-hand side, you have the water masses of the over-wicked mind. Now Moses brings you through the wilderness, right? That wilderness is the carnal mind. It is also symbolizing isolation, the wilderness, right? In the wilderness, what happens in the wilderness? Christ says, even as Moses raised up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be raised up. Is that not true? That serpent is your lower body consciousness. Your sensuality has to be raised up from a carnal nature back to a spiritual nature. That is the serpent that you too have to raise up. Is it not written? As you can see, like I can just keep going like this and talk about any story in the scriptures. We can pick any story in the scriptures, you and me, and we can find out that it is only talking about things that you go through internally, spiritually, right?